Hey guys, thank you very much for participating in this Champions Way webinar. My name is Melody Shuman and I'm going to be your host for today. Really quickly, if you don't know who I am, I own a martial arts school in St. Petersburg, Florida. I've been in the martial arts since 1987 and I hold the rank of a 5th degree black belt. I also do a lot of traveling for instructor certifications. My passion is working with children, particularly between the ages of 3 to 14. I put together a lot of really good step-by-step content for a lot of martial arts school owners in the industry, and some of that information that I've been utilizing I want to share with you today. Today's webinar is on how to make good instructors extraordinary. Now, the reason why I put together this webinar is because I'm a big reader, an avid reader, and I like to read business books and books on science and psychology, particularly with teaching and particularly with working with children. But one of my favorite books that I've read for the 5th time at the end of last year, beginning of this year, was The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, actually The E-Myth Revisited. And one particular chapter, when he talked about his employees, he said a good business can make just good or average employees extraordinary. And it really inspired me to take a look at how our system works here at our school and share the secrets to why our systems work so well. So that's what the whole webinar is going to be on today. So hopefully you'll enjoy the information. And let's just go ahead and get started here. This is a fact. Your school's instructor team is only as strong as its weakest instructors. So when you think about all the instructors that you have on payroll, think about your weakest instructor. Like I said, your weakest instructor or ordinary instructor best represents your school no matter how great your best instructors are. For example, if an ordinary instructor runs a class or a drill and does a poor job, then your students are the ones that suffer. At the same time, your students will feel like they're getting ripped off every time your ordinary instructors take the helm. So in this webinar, what I want to do is reveal the formula for making your ordinary instructors extraordinary. If you look right here on this screen, you'll see the first instructor right here. That's our youngest staff member. His name is Clayton, and he's 17 years old. In the top right-hand side, you'll see Mr. Carlos. He is one of our newest instructors here, and he's 20 years old. And then at the bottom is my curriculum manager, Andrew, and he's been with me for about 5 years. So this is basically my main instructor team. And I would say that in my school, my weakest instructor would be Clayton, particularly because he's the youngest instructor. However, he's also one of the favorite instructors because he has such a great personality and he follows the system really well. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about it for a second. Have you ever heard the dreadful comment, classes are not the same when you do not teach? I know that I love teaching. I know that I teach excellent classes. I'm very excited about working with children all the time. But recently I started to do a lot more traveling. We started a new licensing program, so I'm not always at the school. As a matter of fact, in 2010, I had to step away from my school for the longest period of time since I had opened my school 8 years ago to do a tour in Australia. So I was gone for 2.5 weeks doing instructor certifications all over Australia, and I was very worried about what the school was going to be like when I got back, and if parents were going to say, like I mentioned, classes are not the same when you do not teach. So if you've ever heard that, then that means that you need to look at your systems. Or if you haven't heard that, then you might have heard something like classes are not the same when Mr. Andrew isn't there or Mr. Carlos isn't there. Now, if you haven't heard either of these comments, one or two conclusions can be made. The first thing is you've already figured out the formula for making ordinary instructors extraordinary. That means that the minute you as the school owner stop teaching classes, you brought in a new instructor, or you just transitioned off the mat and your instructors took over and no parent was saying classes are not the same when you're not there, like I said, you've already figured out the formula for making ordinary instructors extraordinary. Or if you have not heard that comment, another conclusion can be made. You're a one-man show, and chances are you will hear that comment once you turn over the reins, unless you figure out the formula for making ordinary instructors extraordinary. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about how do you avoid those dreadful comments. Mind you, I say dreadful comments because once a parent or student makes one of those comments, it's not going to be long before they quit. At the same time, you won't have a choice but to have ordinary instructors run class because consistency and great instructors is very hard to come by and also very expensive to keep. So again, how do you avoid it? Because like a lot of martial arts school owners instructors, Sometimes we don't have our best instructors on the mat. We just have our ordinary instructors on the mat. And like I mentioned, if you have extraordinary instructors and you want to keep them day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and they're a diamond in the rough, like I said, that can be very, very expensive. So let's talk about the 3 ways that you can make your ordinary instructors extraordinary. Mind you, the secret is in the system. So the first thing you want to do is create a system that is very consistent. We're going to cover this in detail here in a second. The second thing you need to do is make the system easy enough for your weakest instructors to understand. But keep in mind, when you have your system easy enough for your weakest instructors to understand, you also want to make sure the curriculum within the system generates results. So this solution to making your ordinary instructors extraordinary is kind of easy, but it's not simple. So let's take you step by step. The first thing is create a system that is consistent. When I talk about creating a system that is consistent, you have to set up a system that rotates your curriculum in a way that functions the same regardless of who's in charge of that class. Don't allow your instructors to have so much freedom that they run their own warm-ups, drills, and curriculum based on what they think or prefer to teach within a time frame and format that they choose to follow. Instead, make sure you have a format that every instructor must follow. Now, you can give them the freedom to select from a collection of content that fits within the system, but don't allow them to create their own system entirely. Now, when I'm talking about your instructors, I'm also talking about you personally. Because I know for a long time when I would teach martial arts classes, I ran my own set of warm-ups, my own type of mat chat. I would do my own types of drills, and just the way I ran class was just totally different than all of my staff. The minute I started getting those comments, man, classes are not the same when you don't teach, I reflected on my system. We created a structured system, and the minute I started following the same system as my staff, teaching the same activities as my staff, we started seeing a big change. So let me give you an example. There's 2 things that we did to make sure that our system is the same, whether I'm teaching, Andrew's teaching, Carlos is teaching, Clayton's teaching, or any one of our level 3 STORM team members is teaching. And that is having a functional curriculum and a class planner format. So let me take you step by step how my functional curriculum works. There's only 8 skills per program. For each of our age-specific groups, there's 8 skills. And all we do is we teach 1 skill per class. Very simple. We stay in order with each skill. So example, on Monday and Tuesday for the 5 and 6-year-old class, we teach focus. Then on the next day, we teach teamwork. Then the next day, we teach control. So we stay in order with each skill. So the student's goal is to earn a skill stripe for each skill test. So for example, when we focus on one particular skill, we stick with that skill for the entire class, and their goal at the end is to earn a skill stripe for that particular skill. And then all 8 skills will be covered over the course of weeks 1 through 4. So for example, if you have 8 skills and they come to class 2 times per week, then that means in the first 4 weeks you'll cover all 8 skills. Then the skills are repeated in weeks 5 through 8. So the students have 2 shots to earn each skill stripe. So once they have all 8 stripes, that means that they're ready to test for their next belt. This is very simple and very functional. I can pull up a 6-year-old right now and I can say, how do you get your next belt? And a 6-year-old will say something like, well, we have to earn 8 skill stripes in order to get our next belt. So we have a very functional curriculum that our students understand. Now, at the same time with our system, we have a very consistent, very structured class planner format. So let me go over that. Our warm-up, we always begin class with our warm-ups, and we rotate with static, active, dynamic, and ultimate exercises. So on class 1 of week 1 of our testing cycle, we're doing static exercises. These are the same static exercises for 3 and 4-year-olds. And then 5 and 6-year-olds have their own static exercises. 7 and 9 have their own, and then 10 and up. Next class, we do the active exercises. Then we do the dynamic, then we do the ultimate. So I'm not just teaching any kind of random warm-up activity that I want when I'm teaching on the class. Whatever class we're on, I teach that particular exercise that's coordinated for that particular planner. After we do the exercises, we deliver the mat chat on the skill. The mat chat is, all the mat chats for all of our programs are already pre-written. Then we run 2 to 3 skill building drills after that. So sticking with that same concept, that same formula, whether we run 2 drills or 3 drills, they're skill building drills and they're on that particular skill we're covering for that day. After we run through 2 or 3 skill building drills, the next step we do is we test them for their skill stripe. As I mentioned, they have to earn all 8 skill stripes. And then, of course, we always finish with a fun game. So you can see that we have a system that's already set up my entire staff understands the system. My entire staff follows the system. That way we're very consistent. But let's go ahead and let's talk about number 2. Like I said, you need to have a good system, but you need to make sure that the system is easy enough for your weakest instructors to understand. In this picture right here, you'll see a picture of H2. We call him H2. His name is Hunter, but you call him H2 because he's tough like a tank. He's 11 years old, and he is one of our most popular Storm team members. Now, the reason why I say make the system easy enough for your weakest instructors to understand is because no matter how smart, intelligent, or talented your younger students, your younger instructors are, they still are considered your weakest instructors because they don't have the maturity or the experience like your older instructors. So I need to make sure that this system is easy enough for somebody like H2 to understand. Think about it. If you select a person to be an instructor, they must be able to understand the system in order to fulfill their role. The last thing I want is to be able to turn over to H2 and say, "Hey H2, I have an emergency. I need you to run this class." And H2 look at me and go, "Huh? What do I do? I don't know what to do." So we want to make sure that H2 knows exactly what he needs to do, and with only one direction. H2, you're running this class. And then he should be able to say, "Yes, ma'am," or "Yes, sir," and jump on the mat and run the class. Because think about it, I always say to myself, if an emergency happened and my weakest instructors were the only ones that could take the lead, could they understand and follow my system? If so, then you're in good shape. So in my particular school, I know that if I looked at H2 and say, "Hey, H2, you're running the 5 and 6-year-old class today," H2 could say, "Yes, ma'am, I'm on it." So let me tell you, for example, how it works. So what H2 would do is if I told him he had to run class, he would grab one of the curriculum iPads and log on, and he would check the curriculum calendar to find out what skill we're covering that day. So once he figured out what skill is covering that day, then he would click on that particular planner. So this is a sample of how our class planners are written out online. Then he would just follow the planner step by step, very simple. You really can't see it in this screen, but it says what the warm-ups are for this particular day. It gives him the mat chat. It tells him what 3 skill building drills to do. Then it gives him the time frame for the skill strike test, and then it even tells him what specific game that he's going to run that day. Now, when he splits them up, while he's following the planner, he'll run those 3 skill building drills. When he splits them up into the groups, all he has to do is just click the testing chart for the group to test for their skill strike, so he has all that pre-written online, and then he has to finish the planner with the fun game, as I mentioned. Now, the reason why I say follow the planner is I also give them a little bit of freedom, too. You remember when I said it's got to be consistent? They have to follow a system, but you can give them a little bit of freedom to have a little bit of creativity within the system. Well, in our online platform, we have a library with over 500 drills that they can choose from to replace the drills in the planner. So, for example, if H2 was running focus class, he looks at the planner and he's like, you know what, those are kind of, I'd rather do some other drills. He would just click on the focus skill, and a library would come up with dozens of different focus drills that he can replace in that particular planner. So sometimes our staff really likes to pick whichever drills fit their personality, and that's okay too, because it keeps them very motivated. So let's go on to the final step of how to make your ordinary instructors or your good instructors extraordinary is make sure the curriculum within the system generates results. So for example, you may have been thinking, when I said my system needs to be simple enough for H2 to be able to run the class, well, just because the system is simple enough, it still needs to generate results. That is very important. Your students need to have technique. They need to be able to gain power. They need to have flexibility. Your students need to be rock stars after every single class. They need to feel like they're rock stars. They need to know that they're rock stars. This is very important because systems are great, but they must function to help the students develop new skills and abilities on a consistently measurable basis. Now, remember that, consistently measurable basis. If just saying that your goal today is to learn a form, that might not be a consistently measurable basis. You need to have step-by-step guidelines on what they need to accomplish belt by belt, skill by skill. It's very important because remember, people are motivated by results. Let me say that one more time. People are motivated by results. The minute someone doesn't feel like they're learning or growing, then they're going to get bored and they're ultimately going to quit. That makes sense, right? But keep in mind, when I say that, at the same time, if your instructors feel like their job is not generating results, then they're no longer going to feel like their role is rewarding, and they will ultimately quit. Now, I used to own and operate a chain of martial arts schools in South Florida, and it was through an organization, and I really loved the organization. I loved the people. I loved the camaraderie, but we didn't have a really good systematic curriculum in place. We had standard basics, standard self-defense, and standard forms, and even standard sparring and board-breaking guidelines for the intermediate and advanced levels. But there's nothing set in stone day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. And the problem with that is that I got burnt out teaching. Not only did I get burnt out teaching, but I know my staff got burnt out teaching. You know why I knew that? Because I was losing staff all the time. I had staff calling in all the time. And most of the time, they weren't really sick. They were just getting burnt out and never really understood that. So when I left my schools in South Florida and I traveled around the world, I used to work for NATMA running the Little Ninja program. This was over a decade ago. And I went to every single school and I talked to the staff and I talked to the instructors. The number one issue I always heard was instructors would reach that burnout factor. So when I opened up my school here in St. Petersburg, Florida, we're approaching our 8-year birthday, by the way, I said that I didn't want to do that here. I wanted to have a martial arts school that my staff wanted to be at all the time. As a matter of fact, our classes right now, it's probably pushing 2:30 right now. Our classes don't start for another hour and 15 minutes. Our staff doesn't even go on shift for another hour. Both my main instructors, they're already here. They're hanging out on the mat. They're chitty-chatting about what they're going to do today. As a matter of fact, Mr. Andrew, my curriculum manager, as I mentioned, you saw him in the picture earlier, he's been at my school for 6 years. He's never called in sick. I've actually had to tell him to take days off. My newest instructor, Carlos, he's been here going on 2 years. He's never called in sick. As a matter of fact, in September, he was wakeboarding during the day at a wakeboarding park, fell off a rail, split his chin open and got a concussion. Went to the hospital and got stitches, came to the school and taught on the mat in his board shorts because he left his uniform in his car, but his girlfriend brought him to the hospital, and she ran back to go grab his uniform. I came on the mat and said, Carlos, get off the mat. You have a concussion. You have stitches. And he looked at me and said, no, we have testing tonight. I want to get my guys ready. That's the type of commitment you want from your staff. How do you get your commitment from your staff like that? It's within these systems. If your staff is feeling like they're seeing their students get better, not just belt by belt, but day after day, class after class, week after week, month after month, year after year, then you know you have a great system and you know your instructors are extraordinary. So let me give you kind of an example of how we know our students are good and how it's consistently measurable. Our programs are broken into 4 age groups. We have our 3 and 4-year-olds, our 5 and 6-year-olds, our 7 to 9-year-olds, and 10 to 14-year-olds. Now, you've heard me talk about this plenty of times if you've been to any of my past seminars. I like the age-specific concept versus belt-specific because it's really hard, for example, to teach math to a 10-year-old, which is a 5th grader, for example, and also have a preschool student trying to learn the same math. It doesn't make sense. So if you're teaching math to 10-year-olds and 3-year-olds, how do you balance it out where they're both being challenged, right? You're trying to make it challenging enough for the 10-year-old, and the 3-year-old doesn't understand, so then you slow it down, and then the 3-year-old can understand it, but the 10-year-old gets bored, and next thing you know, your older kids are quitting your school because they got bored, and your younger kids are quitting your school because it was getting too hard. So that's why I like the age-specific concept. We have all ranks in one class, but they're all the same age, so it works out really well. So that's the first thing that's very important. But here's how we know that it's measurable. So for each of these age-specific programs, there's 9 belt levels within each program. Upon graduation of the program, they will have successfully mastered their 8 skills. So going back, remember we have 8 skills, so their goal is to earn 8 stripes on their belt. When they earn all 8 stripes, and that means that they're eligible to test at the next testing, so they test on all 8 of those skills, and then they get their new belt. And then their goal is to collect all 8 skill stripes again, and except for this time, the testing requirements get a little bit harder. And then when they get them, then they test for their next belt. And then they have to collect all 8 skill stripes again, but it gets a little bit harder. But as you can tell, each class they have a chance to earn a skill stripe. So for example, in balance class, all they're doing is working on balance activities. That's one of the skills for the 5 and 6-year-olds. And then for a white belt to get their balance stripe, they have to do 5 kicks without putting their foot down. Next belt level has to do 10. Next belt level has to do 15. Next belt level has to do 20. So you can see that class by class, the students are being measured, so it's consistently measured, so that's where you start to see the results. So let me give you an example of our basic skills graduation, just so I can put it all together. Basic skills is our 5- and 6-year-old program. There's 8 skills. The first skill is focus. So when they get up to test, this means that they're graduating and ready to move into the 7- to 9-year-old class. In order to pass their focus test, they have to do an elbow strike board break. Elbow strikes for 5- and 6-year-olds, they hurt, but they also show really good focus, because if you hit it in the right spot, then you have very good focus. For their teamwork, to pass their teamwork skill, they have to lead a group of students through all 12 of their stage 1 martial arts movements. So it's not an instructor up there going high block, middle block, low block, punch, knife and strike. No, they actually have to be the ones to lead their students through it. I don't want them looking at me and mocking me. I want them demonstrating that they have sufficient knowledge in all 12 of their martial arts movements before they move into the next program. For control, they have to do a triple switch footwork drill. So they do a triple switch, kick the target with a round kick with the leg that's closest to the pad. Triple switch, kick the target with the leg that's closest to the pad. So they're showing that they have very good control of their body. Very important before they move into the next program, because it gets a little bit harder. For their memory test, they have to do combinations 1 through 9 of the stage 1 form. Combinations 1 through 9 is a total of 12 moves put together in a form. For their balance test, you remember how I said you start at 5, 10, 15, 20? They have to do 50 kicks without putting their foot down. So this supreme balance. For discipline, they have to demonstrate the escapes 1, 2, and 3. For their fitness test, they have to do 20 reps of shoulder taps, squat jumps, crunches, and bridge with shoulder taps. That's a little misspelling there, I apologize. But you can see that they have to show good strength. And then finally, before they can graduate and move into the 7- to 9-year-old program, they have to demonstrate coordination. So they have to do kickboxing combinations 1 through 16 on focus mitts, and they got to do it 3 times. I'll just blurt out what the combinations are. It's jab, cross, hook, upper, block, block, kick, kick, duck, kick, block your rib, right jump, front kick, left jump, front kick. So showing really good coordination. So as you can see, this is consistent, measurable results. They have worked their way through focus, teamwork, control, memory, balance, discipline, fitness, and coordination. They've done all those skills. They've gone through 9 belt levels. They're rock stars at this point. They graduate. Then they go into the next program, which is the 7- to 9-year-olds, which is all new 8 skills. Agility, technique, courage, flexibility, intensity, perseverance, speed, and concentration. So now they're super motivated to go into this new program and learn new skills. So they are seeing results. They are feeling results on the daily consistent basis, and the instructors are seeing it too. So even your average, ordinary instructor, if you have a system set up in your school that is generating results on a consistently measurable basis, it's going to generate results. Your instructors, your ordinary instructor is going to be extraordinary. Let me go back to that really quickly, because think about it. My little 11-year-old H2, the picture that you saw, if I said, hey, H2, I need you to take over the 5- and 6-year-old class for the next few weeks. H2 will be able to follow the system. He'll be able to teach these. These are simple enough curriculum requirements for H2 to generate results with the students. Now the parents are looking at him and going, wow, he's amazing. So think about it. To make your ordinary instructors extraordinary, you need to create a system for your curriculum that's consistent enough to satisfy your students' expectations. Okay, remember, that's important. Satisfy their expectations. Easy enough for instructors to follow, but comprehensive enough that it generates results. That is an easy formula for success. So think about it also. This is not a simple task to accomplish, but the end results will become the heartbeat of your operations. So like I said, instead of hearing those dreadful comments that like parents mentioned, such as, class is not the same when you're not there, because I'm running the system and then my students are following the system that I'm running. You know what I get now? I get parents who come up to me all the time and they say, wow, your instructors teach just like you. Or even better, which I'm starting to get, because I just promoted Andrew to curriculum manager, so he's taken over the math for the last 6 months. And I'm getting parents who come up to me and say, your entire instructor team is absolutely amazing, especially your younger ones. Those are the kind of comments that you want to get, not the dreadful comments of that classes are not the same without you. So replace those dreadful comments with either of these 2 comments, and you've discovered the formula for making good instructors extraordinary. So with that said, if you want some more information on this and you want me to go into more detail, you can go ahead and email me a PDF or email me and I'll give you a PDF copy of this article. Or if you want exclusive Champions rate on any of our manuals or membership, also email me. That's just kind of a shameless little plug I also like to put in there. And also check out melodyschuman.com for more information about our systems and innovations. So with that said, what I want to do is, now that I've given you an earful for how to make ordinary instructors extraordinary, what we're going to do is we're going to open it up to all the attendees. Any questions that you have, you can go ahead and type them in the chat box that you see on your screen, and I'll be more than happy to filter through those questions.
Thank you very much, Melody, for that webinar. I do have a few questions here that I will read out for you. First one is from Robert Kinji. How do you structure your instructors' pay, hourly, by class, and how do you establish their pay rates?
Thank you very much for that question. It's very simple. When you get hired on as a staff member, you start out at $9 per hour, and then we give you raises based on the amount of classes that you help out in. So, for example, Clayton right now, he's up to earning $10 per hour on his schedule. And then also we have one of our head instructors, who is Carlos. He makes $17.50 per hour. And then, of course, we have our curriculum manager, Andrew. Now, Andrew is actually on a salary. Now, on top of the hourly pay that I give my staff members that I just mentioned, they get 100% of their private lessons. So Clayton, Carlos, and Andrew, they do on average 3 to 4 private lessons per week. It's $25 per class, so they can make up to $100 to $150 a week extra on all those private lessons, which is a great incentive. Also, what I do with my staff is I give them 60% of any special events or activities. So those are good bonuses as well. So when they run the sleepovers, for example, we just had a sleepover, Valentine's sleepover, they got to split 60% of their revenue generated from that. On top of that, they also get bonuses for pre-evaluations. So when new students come in, before they can actually jump on the mat, the first thing they need to do is be pre-evaluated. I used to do all of these, but now I have Mr. Andrew and Mr. Carlos running those. So if they do the pre-evaluation, then they pass it, and they qualify for the group class, Andrew or Carlos gets a $25 bonus, because the trial program is $69.95. They get a T-shirt, martial arts pants, and 2 weeks of classes. So out of that $69.95, I bonus them $25. Then if the student joins, then they get another $25 bonus. So they're intrinsically motivated to do pre-evaluations, get them to do the trial program, then they're motivated to actually get them to join the actual program. From there, our retention is phenomenal because of the systems, so it works very well for us. So thank you very much, sir, for that question.
Awesome. Next one is, how do you schedule your classes?
Well, I have what I consider the Rockstar Classroom schedule. So the first class, Monday through Thursday, is our 3- and 4-year-old class. Second class is our 5- and 6-year-old class. The third class is our 7 to 9. The fourth class is our 10 to 14. The fifth class is our black belt class. And then on Mondays and Wednesdays, we end with our crew training program. So let me just tell you our schedule. Monday through Thursday, the early skills 3- and 4-year-old class is from 3:45 to 4:15. It's our only half-hour class. Then we have from 4:15 to 5 o'clock is our basic skills 5- and 6-year-old class. Then from 5 to 5:45, Monday through Thursday, is our core skills 7 to 9-year-olds. Then from 5:45 to 6:30 is our extreme skills, which is our 10 to 14-year-olds. Then from 6:30 to 7:15 is our elite skills, which are our elite belts and our black belt levels. So every day, it's the exact same schedule. Now, the way we coordinate it is Monday and Tuesday are A days, Wednesday and Thursday are B days. So we really say Monday and Wednesday is session 1, Tuesday and Thursday is session 2. So they're assigned to their classes. You either come on Monday and Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday. So I like this because my staff now has their planner for Monday and Tuesday. They just teach it consistent. So they run the planner on Monday, and then they teach it again on Tuesday. Usually they do even better on Tuesday because they ran it the day prior. The other thing I like about the reason why I call this a rock star schedule is because I used to have the roller coaster schedule, convenient for the parents, where the first class would maybe be the 10 to 14-year-olds, then the 3- and 4-year-olds, then the 7 and 9, then the 5 and 6, because that's the prime time hours, and I want to target that market. The problem was that you teach such a mature age group first, and then we'd have to teach a 3- and 4-year-old class, and our expectations, it was very hard to switch gears in our brains and remember to lower our expectations for that particular stage of development for 3- and 4-year-olds. So this schedule is a rock star schedule because you start with your youngest kids, so your expectations are very low as far as skill development because they're so young. They're in preschool. Then when the 5 and 6-year-olds come in, you're talking about your kindergartners and first graders, so you mature a little bit. Then your 7 to 9-year-olds come in. That's your second, third, fourth graders. Then you mature a little more. Then your 10 and up come in. Then you're really mature. Then your black belts come in. Then you're super mature. Then your adults come in, and that's where you start to train really hard. So it helps the stress level of our staff to have that rock star schedule. Very inconvenient for the parents, very convenient for us, but parents will sacrifice convenience if they find that it's worthwhile, so keep that in mind also.
Awesome. Next question is related to the skills system. Brian Harper asks, where can I find a skills system? This has been an idea for me for a long time, but never acted on getting the templates built. And why is skills spelled with a Z?
Skills is built with a C because it's cool. That's the only reason why it's spelled with a Z. It just looks super cool on the uniforms, looks super cool on the logos. Brian, what I did, and this is something exclusive for Champions Way, is if you go to skillsforkids.com, you can get the skills manual and the jumbo drills manual for $1.99 per program, and this is just the Champions Way special. So if you log on to skillsforkids.com and you look in the menu section, you'll see Skills Webinar Special. Just click on that link and you'll have to type in a password. Just type in CW 2013. Those are your turnkey manuals and your jumbo drills manuals. If you're interested in our license program, which is brand new, it's awesome. We started it in November. We have 22 schools on board already. That's basically having a curriculum manager. We run your curriculum for you. Your staff talks to us. We do all the training and everything like that. You get access to our online platform. We sync you up with everything that we're doing. That's called Skills Connect. So that's SKILLZ, Connect, CONNECT.com. You can also get to those websites by just typing in my name, melodyschuman.com, and it'll prompt you to both of those websites as well. So thank you for giving me that opportunity to plug my curriculums.
So it's Master Shuman, how do you handle transitioning? For example, a child that started with you at age 6, so is in the 5 to 6-year-old class and has just turned 7. Do you move them into the 7 to 9 class based on their age, or do they have to finish the entire 5 to 6-year-old curriculum first?
This is a great question. Preferably, I like them to graduate through. So, for example, we just had testing 3 weeks ago, and I had a couple of girls who had already turned 7, so they were close to 7.5, and they wanted to graduate through because they really wanted to get to that final belt level. When you're at the final belt level, you're kind of the rock stars in class. You get to be on the black belt side for all the games. You get to help pick the drills and do all kinds of fun things, and we do a really cool ceremony. So I always tell the parents I'd rather them graduate through. However, some students are anxious, like Mr. Hawk. He's one of our rockstar students in our 5 and 6-year-old program. He's about to turn 7, so we let him do what's called an early graduation. So students who do an early graduation from program to program, regardless of which program it is, they go into the second belt level of the program above them. They can't go any higher. So say, for example, they're at the 7th belt in their particular program. Let's use an example. Say they're in the basic skills program and they're at the 7th belt, which is the white-blue belt. They still have 3 belts to go, and they want to move into the core skills program, which is the next program. They bypass white belt because they have what it takes to do the white belt curriculum in the 7 to 9-year-old program. They have to go in at the orange-white belt, which is the orange-white belt, which is the beginner orange belt level. I do not let them go any higher than that because the curriculum is so progressive. Now, what we do is, I'm going to answer this question, and somebody might be asking this right now, but I'll go ahead and answer it right now. What we do, to give you an example, the core skills program, 7 to 9-year-olds, we take all of the beginner requirements and we break it down into the basic skills program, which is 5 and 6. So when a 5 and 6-year-old graduates, they bypass the first 3 belt levels, which is the beginner levels, and go in at belt level number 4 because they've covered the first 3 belt levels worth of curriculum in their entire curriculum. And then the same thing goes with the early skills. The beginner basic skills curriculum of the 5 and 6-year-old program is all broken down through the 3 and 4-year-old curriculum. It's just a little bit more, it takes them a little bit longer to go through it all. So they bypass the beginner level and go in at the intermediate level. So I hope that answers your question pretty well.
Awesome. Next one is, do you provide a copy of each child's ranks or skills which are required for testing to the parents before their test?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, when they test and they get their new belt, they get their new testing chart for the requirements that they have to fulfill for that particular rank. This works great because at-home training is something that's a big issue in a lot of martial arts schools. A lot of school owners are always concerned that their kids aren't practicing at home. One of the reasons why is because most of the time kids don't practice at home because they don't know what to practice. So by us giving them a printout of what they have to do for their next belt rank, they can go home and start practicing. As a matter of fact, I love it when my kids come in and say, I know it's balance today, and I practice. I can do my 35 kicks without putting my foot down. Watch. And then they show me. I love that my students practice at home. They practice ahead. So, yes, they get that printout when they graduate, but it's also available online on our website. So they can log on to our school website with their private login and passcode, and all their curriculum is there. So they can download the testing charts, they can watch videos, and all that stuff, and that helps them practice at home. So that's a great question.
Great. Next one is, would you give an example of making a skill more difficult from one age group to the other?
Well, the 8 skills for each program are skills that I've learned through studying science and psychology, and they're not skills that I just chose to do for each particular age group. So, for example, 3 and 4-year-olds, their skills are they're early skills that are early in development. So their skills are kicking, punching, blocking, crawling, hopping, rolling, running, and catching. Very simple skills. So their testing requirements are built around those 8 skills. And then I already mentioned the 5 and 6-year-olds, they're basic skills. So they're focus, teamwork, control, memory, balance, discipline, fitness, coordination. Very basic things targeting their stage of development. 7 to 9-year-olds, you're in core skills. These are core skills that you need to succeed in not just martial arts, but any sports or activity. Those are agility, technique, courage, flexibility, intensity, speed, perseverance, and concentration. Then when you're in a 10 to 14-year-old, you're on extreme skills. These are skills that target their stage of development. Believe it or not, the 10 to 14-year-olds are more physically talented and a lot smarter than the average adult. So they're working on really cool extreme drills. We're talking about dexterity, reaction, versatility, momentum, instinct, precision, strength, and vision. So as you can see, they get a little bit harder based on their stage of development. And once again, I've also brought these skills programs to child psychologists. The late Dr. Ruth Peters was one of the first ones to take a look at it. She fully endorsed my skills curriculum, saying that I was right on the money with those skills. And then Dr. Kim Costello has also reviewed our curriculums and said that I was right on point with the skills for their particular stage of development. So if you would like, guys, everybody who's listening, you can email me at melody@shumanconcepts.com if you want a copy of our beginner testing charts for each of our programs. That is Melody, MELODY, at shumanconcepts.com, and it's spelled SHUMANCONCEPTS.com, and I'll send you a sample of what our beginners have to do for each particular program. That way you can see how it's progressive, and it'll give you an idea of how you can set up your systems.
Great. The next question is, what are some of your price points for the kids program?
My price point is very simple. It's $159 per month. So when you join, or actually when you call for my school and you want to train, you can't just come in and take a free class. You have to be pre-evaluated. So what we do is we use a pre-evaluation form, which runs the student through their 8 skills. It's actually the beginner testing requirements, and we score them on a scale of 1 to 5 to see where they are, and then they can qualify for one of 3 training options. If they have any physical, intellectual, social, or emotional limitations that are significant, that we feel are going to help, they're going to be retroactive for them in a group environment, we put them on a private training format, or we tell them to come back in 3 to 6 months depending on their maturity level. If they do pass the pre-evaluation with a certain score, then they qualify for the group class. They can go onto our trial program, which is, as I mentioned, 2 weeks, a T-shirt, and pants at $69.95. That's the only trial program we have. We don't do 2-week free, 1 week free. We don't do 1 month or anything. It's 2 weeks. And then from there, if they decide to join, we reimburse the $69.95 off of their first month's down payment. and we give them their uniform jacket and belt at that time. This is super cool because I have parents coming up to us all the time. I would say that 90% of our students on trial program actually go to my office manager, Jill, and say, okay, my kid's ready to join. He wants his jacket and he wants his belt so he can start earning his skill stripes. So it's super cool. From there, it's $159 per month. Month to month, we don't have term-based contracts at our school. We don't really need them because our retention rate is so great.
Okay, next one is, what non-martial arts skill do you require of your instructors, and how often do you require them to update all of their skills?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I could probably be here for days when I say non-martial arts skills. The first thing that they need is they need to have passion. That when I do my interviews for my employees, it doesn't matter what style they come in. I've hired instructors from all different styles. If they're passionate about martial arts and they're passionate about working, particularly in our school with children, that's the first thing that I look for. The second thing I look for is they have to be humble. At our school, we're all rock stars, but we're rock stars because there's no egos or attitudes here at our school. Maybe a little bit of an ego, but I would say more confident than anything. So I don't like to have people with an attitude or people who don't get along at our school. So if you're passionate and you're humble, those are the two main skills I look for. And my staff members, my staff, they do a staff training once per month. It's on the first Saturday of every month. At 9:15 is the junior storm team training, and then at 10 o'clock is our staff training. It runs an hour, and then they have to participate in 2 instructor certifications per year. Those certifications are conducted here at my school. They're 8 hours long. We also certify instructors from all over the world who come into our school and do those. Those are mandatory, no exceptions. They have to be at those certifications. During those certifications, we're going over all the stages of development of each particular age group. We're talking about the 10 laws of instruction that they need to apply in each and every class. We talk about the 5 behavioral sciences on what to expect and what not to expect from children, and also how to deal with certain personalities and so forth. And then we also work on the 7 steps to drill management, which is our newest addition to the instructor certification. So they're very well trained.
Great. Next question. Do you cap your classes? How many teachers per class?
This is a great question. We absolutely cap our classes. Right now, we've increased our class size level because our staff is becoming awesome. Now, this is just my personal preference because we like to see results. We like high-quality classes, so if you pack them in like sardines, it's very good for your bank account for only a short period of time. But if you cap them in like sardines, then your retention is going to be weaker, which means that you need to invest more time in marketing, but also your staff gets demotivated because every time a student quits, that's like a little tick in your heart. So for us, we'd rather smaller, more manageable classes with a higher price point for our particular demographic market. That way we can generate great results. So 3- and 4-year-old classes cap out at 12 in each session. So remember, we have Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And from there, we increase that number by 8. So 5- and 6-year-old class caps out at 20, 7- to 9-year-olds cap out at 28, and the 10- to 14-year-old class caps out at 36. Once the class reaches maximum capacity, we put a waiting list on our class, and then students cannot join into the program until a student graduates out or a student leaves our school.
Okay, a couple of questions about belts. How many belts do you have in each age group, and how often are they tested?
That's a great question. There's 9 belts in each age group. We have 4 programs, early, basic, core, and extremes, and then of course we have 9 elite belts before they can test for their black belt, their first degree black belt. So we have a total of 45 belts. It sounds crazy, but when you think about it, we want to increase the lifespan of a 3-year-old who starts at our school. So they need to go through 45 belts before they can test for their first degree black belt, which is super, super awesome. So that's the belt level. We test every 10 weeks, so here's how it works. We cover, as I mentioned, we have 8 skills per program. We cover 2 skills per week. So in 4 weeks, we'll cover all 8 skills once. Then we repeat those skills through weeks 5 through 8. Then week 9 is review week, and at the end of review week is testing. And then the following week is called cycle break. So we close for regular classes on the 10th week of every testing cycle. We open only on Monday and Tuesday for fun camps, which are from 4 to 6, and that's where students can bring in their friends. It's like a party. We have snacks, refreshments, and all we do is play games for those 2 hours. It's our way of celebrating with the students and bonding with them. It's also our way of giving the parents and students a break, but most importantly, giving our staff a break. So we close Wednesday through Sunday of the 10th week. It's called Cycle Break, and our staff and our students love it. And we just explained, because martial arts is year-round, the week after testing, we have a little bit of a party at the beginning of the week, and then we take a break so we can regenerate for the next testing cycle.
And do you charge exam fees?
Right now, we do charge exam fees. The only reason why we charge exam fees is because we like to look at testing as a profit-generating event, because it requires a lot of planning and a lot of extra work particularly on my office manager. So instead of filtering in the testing fees into the actual tuition and us having to spend a lot of money on the actual testing, she likes earning money on testing, so that makes sense. However, we are still talking about making it all-inclusive into our actual tuition. So right now we do have testing fees. They're $25 per testing.
Okay, and a question from Dan. If you run a community self-defense seminar or stranger danger event, would you need to break it up into age groups as well?
I prefer to break it up by age groups, absolutely. So when we do our anti-bullying seminars and events, they are absolutely broken up by age, because once again, whenever you're teaching anything comprehensive that's going to talk about skills that target their stage of development, it's best to break them up by age. However, you can break them up not as detailed as I break them up in my programs. For example, when I do anti-bullying seminars, I'll do 3 to 6-year-olds instead of 3 to 4 and 5 and 6. And then I'll have that 7 to 14-year-olds and targeting their particular stage of development. So the only thing that we don't break up by age is when we do our fun camps and our games, because they're not progressive. There's not consistency points that we need to meet, measurable points that we need to meet for fun camps and things like that. So those can be all ages and just be all fun.
Great. Siva's question is, where can I get a list of fun games to run at the end of class?
Great question. Go ahead and email me, melody@shumanconcept.com, as I mentioned, and I'll give you a copy of our fun games and activities list. And it'll provide you with a whole list of different games that you can do, and there are also step-by-step details that you can use as well. And these are great not just for the end of class, but they're also very good for your summer camps, your fun camps, your parents' night outs, and things like that.
Okay, and a couple questions about adult students. Are there no adult students? What happens when a student turns 15?
Well, right now, when our students turn 15, 16, 17, they're staying in the black belt class because our elite skill curriculum is awesome. The way it's ran, our students love the continuing training because every 10 weeks, they focus on one major at a time. So, for example, right now, the elites, all they're doing is board breaking for the entire testing cycle. Last testing cycle, all they did was weapons. The testing cycle before, all they did was grappling. Next testing cycle is knife defense. So they're constantly working on one particular major, so it keeps them motivated. But we do have an adult program. Right now we're running Crew Nation by Master Ace Ramirez, and it is awesome. So it shifts gears from having the Taekwondo type of Taekwondo-rooted curriculum to the actual Muay Thai curriculum, but the students that are transitioning into the Crew Muay Thai program are absolutely loving it. So we got a lot of teenagers who are cross-training right now, and they're having a blast with it. And
Dio asks, how long are your testing cycles for your adults or older teens?
Dio, that is a good question. So the students that stay in the Elite Skills program, which is our Elite Belt and Black Belt curriculum, they test every 10 weeks along with our other students. Right now we're running the Crew Nation. The Crew Nation is designed to be 6-week segments, so we're following that step by step just the way that Ace ran it.
Okay, we're going to answer 2 more questions. One is by Eric. Did you say you have 230 students? What is your average monthly financial growth?
Well, Eric, we do not have that many students. That's where the maximum cap is on our school. So right now we're pushing the 170 marker. To tell you what my monthly gross is would be very difficult because we also filter in all of the fees that we generate from our other companies. So, but I would tell you that on my billing, our billing is usually around $20,000 per month. So that's for the tuition, but that's not including the extra fees, the testings and things like that.
Awesome. Last question. Can your instructors make a living by teaching at your school? If not, how do you motivate them?
Our instructors can make a decent living at our school because they get their hourly wage, but then when they earn their testing fees, I'm sorry, their private lesson fees, they're earning a lot of income through the private lessons. They're also earning a lot of income through the special events and activities. For example, they just ran a sleepover, and I believe that they got another $400 bonus for doing that. So you can make a great living just with the private lessons, and bonuses alone is pretty decent. But of course, once you get up to the management position at my school, that's when you get on salary, so absolutely. But, you know, for our teens and our young adults, you know, obviously they're not going to be rock stars. So I can tell you that the way that they stay motivated is just because they love their job. So they come in here and they can't wait. As a matter of fact, Carlos, for a while, he worked at a smoothie place. Right now, he's also a personal trainer at a gym. I can tell you, he comes in here, he's ready to rock and roll, he's ready to have fun every single day because it's just a really cool environment. But also, it's all in the systems on how we have everything set up. It's very doable for him. He doesn't have to wing it every day and think about what he has to teach. He comes in here, he looks through the library of curriculum, he picks what he wants to do, and he puts his own personality to it, and that's what it's all about.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Master Shuman, and thank you for taking the time to answer the questions. I'm sure that you'd be happy to answer any other ones that come into your inbox, melody@shumanconcepts.com, as well as recording will be available online on our Champions Way YouTube channel, so watch out for that. And thank you very much again.
Thank you guys very much. And yes, like I said, please email me with any additional questions that you have. And of course, also, if you have the time, please feel free to friend me on Facebook if you're not my friend already. And if you are my friend or you decide to friend me, go ahead. I'd love to hear a shout out about the webinar. Of course, give special credit to Champions Way for setting this up. But any kind of testimonials or any kind of feedback you have would also be much appreciated. So thank you guys very much, and everybody have a wonderful month.